We're getting close to the Torah reading of Balak, Parshas Balak, and everyone knows that this Parsha, with Bilam Rasha, that Bilam wanted to curse Klal Yisrael, and he had a very special power for cursing. And the Zohar Kodesh writes that Balak was bigger than Bilam in witchcraft, but Bilam knew how to pinpoint the moment that the curse can catch on. That was the special power of Bilam, and that's why Balak actually needed Bilam. Now let's try to understand what the concept of a curse, what it is, and how it turns into a bracha, and similar things like that. Now the idea of Ashkacha Pratos, Ashkacha Pratos happened to me a little while ago. I joined a radio talk, and I spoke on the radio, and I wasn't prepared for this, but they asked me to speak about practical Kabbalah, since it was in the news. It's been in the news lately, and a cab driver, whose name is Moshe Ganon, came to me there and told me that after his father died, his father cursed him. Before his father died, his father cursed him with 3 curses. He cursed him that he shouldn't have a son that carries his father's name, and he cursed him that he shouldn't have parnasa, and he cursed him that his wife should make his life bitter. And that person, all these curses came fulfilled in him, and he seemed very sad. And he explained that 5 of his children died, 4 of them in the womb, the mother's womb, in the wife's womb. He always thought that he would call it under his father's name. And he wasn't thinking about he didn't pay much attention to the curse. And the 5th baby that was born, he lived a few months and then he died. And then he realized that maybe it was the curse. And he decided the next child he's not going to name after his father, and that child lived till today. And about Parnasa, he works like a donkey, and he never has any money. He lives in a caravan, and whatever's happening with his wife, he didn't want to tell me about it. I didn't ask about it. So in any case, he tells that he got to a certain point to Rav Kaduri. Not much time before Rav Kaduri died, who's Nifter. Rav Kaduri advised him to go with 10 people to the kever of his father and to ask for mechila from his father, and there to do a tos klolos. So I came to speak about other things, but since we started speaking about this, so we spoke about curses, and then 3 days later, a few days later, I was involved in this whole thing, and they put this they videoed everything about how he got his curse undone, and they put it on TV and all sorts of different shows. In any case, we see that curses actually do work. So they do become fulfilled. What I want to say was that after the television show, the telephone lines stopped working. There was so many telephone calls that we got, one telephone after the next, for 2 hours. Nobody would answer. We had 80 messages. After a few days, it calmed down. I can answer a few people a day. I can't answer such a massive amount of people. In any case, for what we're concerned with, from all these telephone calls, it seems like half of Klal Yisrael is cursed. There are a lot of people with problems, all sorts of different problems that people have. In any case, it's written in Mishlei, Kitzipur non lonud ken kilos chinam lo savo. When it says lo savo, it's written in Aleph and it's read with a Vav. that there's a difference between the way it's read and the way it's written. Rashi writes, Ketzipor Lanud, that Nad goes, it flies all around, and then it goes back to its nest. So too, a curse, a kilas chinama, curse will go back to him. When a person curses, it'll go back to him. He has to take into consideration that if the curse doesn't catch on to anyone, then it'll do it like a boomerang and come back onto him. And we see many very big people that cursed. This curse ended up hitting them. And one of these is David HaMelech, where his curse on Yoav, in the end of the day, came back onto him. We're going to explain this as the shiur goes on. In any case, when a person says a certain curse, a person is no longer ruling over, no longer in charge of the words that he said. It's out of his domain. As long as the words did not go out of his mouth, then he has control over them. It will not be brought into expression. No thoughts were brought into expression except for thoughts of Avodah Zarah or Gilui Rais in unsneous things. When a person thinks about doing other aveiros or other things, the thought is not attached into anything, and also speech is a type of attachment. When a person, when a thought thinks about, when a ganav thinks about stealing, so then he's not going to be punished for it. But once he starts telling all of his friends, "Oh, I'm going to steal like this and like that," then the speech itself brings a person into the category of chayav and of action, because speech is a type of action. Therefore, a person has to know that from when the words come out of his mouth, he's not anymore in charge of these words, and these words can now do whatever it is that, according to the gzar din on this person in Shemaim. And before we elaborate on this, we're going to explain why is the power of speech so strong. And specifically when we speak in Lashon HaKodesh, for many years the Jews didn't want to speak Divrei Chol with Lashon HaKodesh because it's a very powerful language. When Hashem created the world, when he said Yehior, says Vahior, he didn't say light, let there be light. He said Or. He said Or, the word in Lashon HaKodesh, Aleph Vav Reish. Meaning that the Hebrew language is the language that created the whole world. And therefore when Hashem created the world, he created the world with speech. And a Jewish person, his job in this world is to compare himself to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, because Hashem wants a dir b'tachtonim. He wants to live here in this world, just like Hashem has rachamim, so too he wants us to have rachamim. Just like Hashem creates worlds with his speech, so too Hashem wants that we create worlds with our speech. We do. The existence of speech of a Jew is a very powerful thing. Even Goyim, their speech is powerful, but even more so when a Jew is speaking in Lashon HaKodesh, it's even stronger. So we have to be particularly careful about that. In any case, when a person curses, he has to take into consideration that if the curse does not catch on, then it could go back to him. And we've seen this by Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, when Lavan was running after him and they were searching for the trophim that Rachel stole them, Yaakov didn't have any idea that it was his wife, Rachel. And when Lavan didn't find the trophim, he didn't find anything that's in the tents, Yaakov got angry. And he says, I was afraid, I ran away because I was afraid that you were going to take my children away from me, but whoever stole your things will not live. And she didn't know that Rachel stole it. And that's why Rachel Imenu died on the way, wasn't buried with Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov then felt responsible for the death of Rachel. And then he felt bad that why he didn't bury her in Mars Machpelah with him. One of the reasons was the curse that he cursed. But Yaakov learned something from this. And the bad news comes that came to him that Yosef was killed, and they showed him the Kesonos Apasim that had blood on it. Imagine Yaakov Avinu would have cursed the person who did this. If he said, whoever killed him, this and that, all sorts of horrible things should happen to him. If Yaakov would have said these things, who would have known what would have happened to Am Yisrael? But Yaakov was very careful, because once it was very clear to him that nobody stole the trophy, but he got burnt by what he said. His beloved wife was nifta, and this time he watched his mouth and didn't say any curse. In no situation is a person allowed to curse, even if it's completely justified. Who knows what's going to be? There are two reasons. I saw once, I even told this in one of the shiurim. There was a woman with her children. She said one of the children, Tilech Lazazel, go to Gehenna, she says. So I said to her, my daughter, do you know what you're saying to him? If this is the right time and it catches on, you'd be crying bitter tears on this, what you said. And maybe it won't attach to your children, but it could come back to you. A person has to train his mouth and the people in his family that everyone should speak in a nice way and not say bad things or curses from their mouths. Because a curse can actually hurt him even more than other people. Let's see what happens with David HaMelech. So it's written in Sefer Shmuel Beis. Yoav gets angry that Avner is taking honor from the king. He was the head of the army, and Yoav comes to the king and says, "What did you do? Why didn't you send him?" He saw Saul, who ran after him. It hurt David HaMelech. David HaMelech gave Yoav curses, very strong curses, that they're never going to have money, they're going to be always sick with. And let's look what the Gemara says about this in the Gemara Sanhedrin. Amir Marav, all the klolas that David HaMelech cursed in Yoav actually happened to his own children. The fact that they should be sick and they should not have money. Rechavam was a Zav. And the Gemara learns out that his son Rechavam was Azav, and Uziyahu Melech was Mitzorah.